I don't know what it is, but there's something so creepy but so like majestic and magical and mysterious about the mountains. And it's like, as frightening as they are, it's like I can't keep myself away. It's like I constantly find myself digging and finding research on them, and it's like I gotta go. I want to put feet on the ground. I want to see. I'm curious. It's like I can't keep myself away. So now I didn't book the trip and I'm going. But I'm gonna tell y'all about that later. And I'm curious because a lot of my folklore series, I see a lot of people who say that they live in the mountains. Where exactly in the mountains is in the mountains? Are we talking about Blue Ridge? Are we talking about Smoky Mountains? Are we talking about Caucasus Mountains? What are we talking about? You couldn't tell by the title of the video, we're talking about the mountains. And we're talking about the Smoky Mountains, okay? Not the Smoky Mountains I would like to be on. That would require me to go to California or Amsterdam, but I definitely will go to both. I'm seeing 111. I feel like that's spirit's way of telling me, let's make it happen. So yeah. What's good in the YouTube hood? It's your girl Luna Nova, and I'm back with another one for y'all today. And as I stated before, we're gonna go ahead and get into some Smoky Mountain folklore. Now, as I stated before, I don't know what it is about the mountains that just seems so spooky but so majestic in the same thought, but it's like I can't escape it. And as long as you guys are wanting me to make content like this, I guess I won't ever escape it, which I'm fine with, perfectly fine with. So make sure that you go ahead and grab your favorite drink, get a snack, because we're gonna go ahead and settle in for more of this interesting Smoky Mountains folklore. All right, so boom. No, but for real. So the Smoky Mountains are old. I'm talking ancient old. I'm talking older than the Rocky Mountains old, which is pretty damn old. And from what I've heard, all know the Appalachian Mountains is the oldest mountain range in the US. It's just eroded over time. It was a lot taller than what it stands right now. It's definitely the oldest mountain range in the US. So with that being said, the Smoky Mountains are old. They've stood for over 200 million years, and they have seen it all. Love, war, death, I'm talking everything. Pandemics, it's seen it all. And then some. Something unexplainable. So today we're gonna go over the strangest and some of the most downright interesting folklore stories that lie deep in the misty Smoky Mountains. On different trails of the Smoky Mountain, hikers have reported certain trees that look strange to them, and they report them saying that they look ghostly even, bone white in appearance and glowing faintly in the moonlight. Sounds like some courage to cowardly dog shit if you ask me, but what do I know? Well, apparently the lore is that some people call them ghost trees, and these trees appear where tragedy has taken place. Now there's an old Cherokee parakeet that talks about spirit trees marking portals. And apparently these ghost trees would be the indication of where those portals were. And of course the local lore is that these trees are guarding something, or simply warning you to stay away. Now of course scientists try to blame this on fungi or lightning scars or other environmental elements, but you try standing alone with that at night and see if science still comforts you with that explanation. I bet it won't. Now, long before the Smoky Mountain Range became a national park and had all the trails and all those good things, settlers speak of a woman who lived deep in the woods alone. Some called her a healer and others whispered that she definitely was a witch. She vanished after a really harsh winter one year, the locals reported, but her legend definitely didn't leave. In that same area where this woman once reported to live, hikers seem to report strange symbols etched into the trees. Other hikers report different weird bone placements, even claiming for them to be ritualistic in the way that they're placed out along the trail. Even people have even gone to the lengths of reporting that they see a barefoot woman rummaging around in the woods and simply vanishing. So as you can see, the local lore goes that the woman obviously never left and became one with the woods. And now she watches you, lurking in every shadow. I don't know about you guys, but physically speaking, I don't think I would want to meet a back mountain woods woman who hasn't had contact with civilization in a very long time. That witch might try to eat me. I'm good. I'm gonna have to let her meet Sarah McLachlan before she thinks she can get close to me. Yeah. During times of war, mountain ranges are often used to hide, camouflage, or even ambush the opposing party, and this was no different for the Civil War. During the Civil War, hundreds of soldiers crossed the Smoky Mountains, but not all of them made it out, and allegedly, some of them never stopped marching. At night in the Smoky Mountains, people hear phantom marching that echoes throughout the valley. Some have even reported shouting, moans and groans as if people are in pain on the battlefield, as well as gunfire. And of course, whenever people try to follow up on the things that they're hearing, they never come across anything. Not one single soul will be in those mountains. Just the mist, just the wind. Can you imagine hearing those types of things and then seeing absolutely nothing out there? I would be booking it back home. And one trail, particularly near Chattahoochee, is infamous for these sounds. The people who work at the national park often like to refer to this as the natural acoustics, but people who live there definitely know it to be something else. Now with this next one, I don't understand what is the common theme between mountain ranges and strange lights that come from them, but it seems like every mountain range has some type of lore about this. And the Smoky Mountains is no different. High in the ridges, strange lights flicker in the dark. They float around and then they vanish, with no source, no rhyme, no reason, no pattern. Famously called wisps or ghost lights, scientists are very baffled by these because they don't know why they appear or where they go. And they've been baffled by this for decades. They don't know if it's some type of natural gas or reflection of something, but they don't know what the source of it is. Tells you exactly where our tax dollars are going to, because these scientists don't seem to know shit but what they don't know. And we know that they don't know it. But I digress. Now, other people think this is some type of spiritual phenomenon, but either way it goes, this is extremely freaky. Like I said, I don't know where these lights come from. I don't know why there are so many different stories and lore about weird sightings of lights around mountains, but I want to know where this comes from, like actually know where this comes from. Deeper, older, Parakier story that tells us why this happens, but the world may never know. Now, people have reported that these strange lights will follow them for miles. If y'all saw the video that I posted in reference to Australia having a similar situation in the outback, people have also reported that in Australia. So this is happening not just in America, not just in one continent and or country. It's happening across the world in mountain ranges and in the desert. This is a strange phenomenon that I don't know if I want to experience because it may just terrify me. Whatever they are, they seem to choose when they want to be seen and when they don't. Now let's talk about one of my favorite places to be at, and that is the waterfall. Now, Huling Falls is an absolutely beautiful waterfall range, but also deadly. Let me explain. Slippery rocks, fast water, and allegedly a ghost on the loose. Now, local lore goes that there was a woman who was once visiting this waterfall range and unfortunately slipped and drowned in the waterfall. And now apparently her spirit haunts the range. People have reported seeing her silently standing in the falls, still soaking wet, and when they approach closer, she vanishes. Now, the park signs definitely warn about accidents and for people to be careful. But what about the ghosts? They don't warn you about that. Well, I will say, at least most of the mountain ranges will warn you that if you hear someone after a certain hour on the walkie-talkie, that it is not the park. It is indeed a walker. And I'm not going to say the full word because apparently people have told me to stop saying it, so I'm not going to say it anymore. But yes, if you are ever in the mountain ranges, and that is the Smoky, Appalachian, any mountain range, and you hear someone over that walkie-talkie in the dead of night, just know it's time to go, okay? It's time to go. Gotta hit him with the big on, demon. You gonna get the hell on today. You gotta hit him with the power of Christ compels you. But in all reality, please don't do that. You will die. Okay? Because what is the word Jesus to a demon? Say it with me. Laughable. Because stop playing. Lucifer was once an angel too. That's why that shit don't scare him. But I digress. The Smoky Mountains are more than just a scenic beauty. They hold memory. A place where the past still speaks currently. So if you're hiking one day and you feel eyes on you or hear a slight whisper and you know no one's around, maybe you've wandered into the Smokies' oldest stories. Or maybe the mountains are just speaking to you. I think I made a mistake earlier when I said that the Smoky Mountains weren't a part of the Appalachian Mountains or something along those lines. I just want to clarify by saying, yes, the Smoky Mountains are a part of the Appalachian Mountains. It is just a certain part of the mountain range that has been named the Great Smoky Mountains. I just wanted to clarify, but I digress. We've been diving deep into Appalachian folklore, so I just wanted to put out some more information and stories about it because y'all seem to like it. I'm intrigued, so we might as well meet in the middle and share. If you enjoyed this dive into more Appalachian folklore and spooky mountain stories, please let me know down in the comments what was your favorite part, and if there was something that I missed, let me know what I need to go over for the next video, because yes, there most likely will be another one. So I have one quick question before I get out of here. Do you have any spooky stories from the Smokies or any other place? And if so, let me know down in the comments, or make sure that you leave it here in my email so I can go ahead and share for Mystic Monday. And I know you guys have been asking, when am I gonna start this series? I wanted to wait until a couple stories built up so I could have a few to post about. So please be patient, but it will be dropping very soon on a Monday, coming soon. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here so I can edit this, rest, and see what I'm gonna post for you guys tomorrow. So with that being said, make sure that you drink your water, mind your business, and stay prayed up and protected. And as always, Luna loves you.
This couple found out the hard way why you don't go wandering around the Smoky Mountains if you don't know where you're going. In the early 2000s, this Ohio couple just graduated high school, and they were going to spend the summer in Charleston, South Carolina with the guy's brother. They really wasn't on any kind of time schedule making their way from Ohio to Charleston. So along the way, they would often stop at hiking trails and famous landmarks and just enjoy each other's company while taking in all the beautiful scenery. When they reached Tennessee, they took the drive through the Smoky Mountains, and this particular day, it was starting to get dark, and they decided they would just pull over and find somewhere to sleep for the night. Pretty much through this whole trip, they had stopped. They loved to hike and just outdoors in general, so they took advantage of that whenever they came to a well-marked hiking spot, a place they could camp. But since it was getting dark and they didn't really know the area that well, they didn't want to pay for a hotel. They just drove along the back roads in the Smoky Mountains until they found an old grown-up logging road. They both made the decision when they seen this road that it looks kind of overgrown. There shouldn't really be any people around, so they just decided they would pull their truck up on this logging road. They went roughly a mile or so, and by the time they reached their destination, a clearing, they decided they would just sleep in the truck for the night. Being very outdoorsy and loving nature and hiking, they wasn't intimidated by the Smoky Mountains or wildlife or forest. They were very comfortable in making the decision of just pulling off to sleep. So after a few days of being on the road, when they finally put the truck in park and turned the engine off, they reclined their seats back and just tried to get some sleep. The lady ended up falling asleep pretty quickly again because they were tired. The guy, he had trouble. He couldn't really get comfortable in his reclined seat, and so he just kind of tossed and turned for a little while. At one point, he even considered getting out and getting the tent out of the truck and just setting up tent next to the truck to camp so he could hopefully sleep. But he just got that gut feeling, it probably wasn't a good idea. He wasn't really sure if it's where it was a new area and he didn't really know where he was at, or, in nature, you never know what can happen. So he just opted to stay in the truck, and eventually he did fall asleep. Around 2 a.m., his girlfriend woke up because she heard what sounded like somebody or something walking around the truck. She reached over to wake up her boyfriend and told him to listen, and he also began to hear it, but then it quit. It stopped all of a sudden. They assumed it was probably a black bear or maybe a deer. Didn't really think a lot about it, so they just laid back down and tried to go back to sleep. About 15 or 20 minutes later, the girlfriend was woke up again by what sounded like, this time, multiple people or creatures walking around the outside of the truck. Again, she reached over and woke up her boyfriend, and he also heard it. And so he didn't really know what to do because he didn't have any kind of weapon. And he's still thinking it's probably some kind of animal, even though it sounded like people. He decided he would just turn the headlights on to see if anything was in front of the truck. When he done that, that's when he seen what appeared to be 4 people standing about 20 yards in front of their truck. But these just wasn't ordinary people. He said these people looked like something straight out of a movie. They were covered from head to toe in mud, just very stringy and dirty hair, and they were just staring at them through the windshield about 20 yards away. Immediately they knew this was not right. They needed to leave, But they were in a huge F-150, Ford F-150 truck, the big tires, and they were on this little narrow road. So he couldn't just whip it around to turn to get away. So he did throw the truck into gear, he threw it in reverse, and he started to back up. And every time the headlights would kind of go off those people, they would start coming toward the truck closer. And at this point, they're starting to freak out. He don't want to make any sudden, quick turns or anything because he don't really know the area. He don't want to, cut it too deep and get caught in a ditch or hit something. So he's very slowly trying to maneuver to back up and also watch these people, because every time his headlights hit off of them, they start coming closer to the truck. This goes on for a couple minutes and they're really starting to panic. And at one point he turns a little quicker, a little more deep cut, and his headlight stays off for a little bit longer time period. And when he turns the truck back toward them, there's not just 4 of them this time. He said there's 11 or 12 of them. They are completely freaking out because now there's not just 4 people, there's 11 or 12 of them. They're in the middle of nowhere at 2:30 in the morning, in the middle of the Smoky Mountains, in an area they don't know anything about, and this huge group of people is starting to surround their vehicle. The only thing he knows to do at this point is just try to back out of this road completely because he can't turn. And so it's just a slow process because at this time there are no rear view cameras, there's no backup cameras. He's just relying on his side mirrors and the old-fashioned way of turning around to look, but he can't really see anything. At one point he realizes he hit something and his truck kind of bounces. He runs over something not knowing what it was. The tires start to spin. He didn't remember running over anything on the way in, but now he's trying to figure out what this is because those people are just getting closer to the truck. So he decides to put it back in drive and he pulls forward really quickly. He guns it, and that's when he hops back over and he's able to see this point that there's a tree laying across the road. And as he throws it back in reverse and guns it backwards again, he can see actually that this tree had been freshly cut. It wasn't there when they pulled in, but these people, or someone with these people, had cut this tree down. He knows that now they're truly in danger because these people are obviously trying to trap them in this little area. So as quickly as he can, but still very slowly, he just stays in reverse the whole way. And these people are just staying out of the headlights' reach, just enough where they are illuminated. But they're following this truck all the way out. After several grueling minutes, he gets close to the road again because he can start to see headlights go by. And all the while, these people are still following from a distance. Eventually, he does make it back to the road, and he throws it in drive and shoots out of there. They go to the local police or the sheriff and report what happened. And they just told them they would check it out, and if anything ever come of it, they would let them know. They'd contact them. But they never did hear from the local police. This should be a reminder, anytime you're out in an area you're not familiar with, it's good to have a weapon or at least be aware of your surroundings and don't go in places you're not familiar with because who knows what's out there. If you've ever had an experience like this or any kind of paranormal experience, I'd love to hear your story, see your evidence. My email's listed in my bio. You can contact me that way. You guys have a great day. God bless.
Experts estimate that upwards of 1,000 people go missing every year in national parks across the U.S. And today, this is one of those stories. The story starts June 14th, 1969 in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee. And 2 families descended upon the national park for an annual camping trip for Father's Day. The 2 families had started their hike at Cades Cove, the Russell Field where they camped for their first night. So the first leg of the trip went without incident. The next day, they awoke and hiked to Spence Field where they planned to spend the night. The children from both families decided that they wanted to surprise the adults and began to hide around camp. 6-year-old Dennis Martin was seen by his dad hiding behind a bush, but just 5 minutes later the other children returned, but Dennis was nowhere to be found. Dennis was wearing a bright red shirt, which was easily seen by the contrast of the green all around them. So it seemed like the children may have left Dennis on purpose so not to ruin the prank. After 2 hours of frantic searching by everybody at camp, the Park Service rangers were notified, and the search and rescue efforts began. The area had numerous dangers, such as ravines, steep slopes, and numerous wild animals. Suddenly a microburst hit, flooding surrounding streams and taking out any signs of little Dennis nearby. To make matters even worse, the temperatures dropped down to 50 degrees and Dennis was not dressed for that kind of weather. By afternoon the next day, almost 250 people had joined the search. The details of the case proved to make an instant headline and even garnered the attention of the president. By day 7 of the search, Dennis's 7th birthday had arrived. Along with it came upwards of 1,500 people, including the National Guard, FBI, and the Green Berets. But unfortunately, with the sheer number of people looking, many not knowing what to look for, and contaminating the areas that they went across may have done more harm than good. But despite all efforts, including helicopters and dogs, no signs of Dennis could still be found. There was only one possible clue during this time as to where Dennis could have gone. It was found in a peculiar set of little human tracks. One was barefoot, and the other was wearing a shoe similar to what Dennis could have been wearing. But after the Martins declared that it was too big to be Dennis's, the ranger said it must have come from a Boy Scout volunteering. Hope began to fade, but the tips continued to flood in, including one from a well-known sidekick, but unfortunately led to nowhere. On June 25th, 11 days after Dennis went missing, his family returned home. And 15 days after Dennis went missing on June 29th, all major searches were suspended. A month after Dennis went missing, a small group of remaining searchers reported a putrid smell coming from around the area where Dennis went missing, but it unfortunately seemed like this was never rechecked out, and by September of the same year, the search was officially called off. A few years after Dennis had last been seen, a man reportedly found a small skeleton, but since he was doing illegal foraging, decided to keep this to himself for decades until 1985. But unfortunately by then it was too late and no remnants could be found. And in the 1990s, a man contacted park officials thinking that he'd be Dennis, but he turned out to not be. And sadly, to this day, more than 50 years later, David has never been found. His father died in 2014, never knowing the mystery of what happened to his son. And since then, the National Park Service completely changed their search and rescue operations, resulting in only 4 people who have failed to be found in the Smokies.
Is there something hiding in the Smoky Mountains? Now, there was this man named Chuck. Chuck was from Ohio, and him and his wife decided they were going to go to Gatlinburg and hike for a couple days in the Smoky Mountains. So they get there to Gatlinburg, and for a couple days they are out hiking in the Smokies. Well, they happen to be hiking on this particular trail, and the trail runs next to this canyon. And as they're walking through this canyon, Chuck said that his wife was about 10 steps in front of him. And as he's walking, he turns to his left, and he said up on this sort of rock formation, he sees what looks like a large dog or wolf. He couldn't really make out what it was. And he said this thing lunged at him. And Chuck just thought, okay, this thing is going to attack me. He falls back. And as he's on the ground, he's thinking, okay, where is this thing? Like, did it jump on me? Like, what happened to it? He looks around and there is nothing. So he gets up and his wife is kind of like, why'd you jump on the ground? Like, what's going on? And he's like, you didn't see that dog or wolf or whatever it was? And she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So he said, maybe I'm just tired from the hiking. Like, let's go back to the hotel. So they go back to the hotel and he takes a nap. Later that night, him and his wife decide, it's really nice outside. Let's go up to this mountain overlook and check out the stars. So they drive this windy road around the mountain and they get to the top and they're at this overlook. And he said they were out looking at the stars, and it was just like this calm, clear night. But all of a sudden, a breeze started to blow. And he said these storm clouds started to roll in over the sky. And that's when Chuck got this really eerie feeling like something was wrong. And he said he started to feel like really, really nauseous, like he was going to be sick. So he tells his wife, like, let's go back to the hotel. Like, I'm just not really feeling tonight. Like, something's off. So they drive back to their hotel and they go to bed. Later that night, Chuck has this very vivid nightmare where he said he was being chased by this man, except the man was crawling on all fours. And he said this loud, thundering clap of sound like woke him up, and he said that he just felt like something was off. Well, he gets up and he goes to turn on a light. None of the lights would turn on. the power was off. And so Chuck's like, well, the storm must have knocked the power out, you know. So he decides he's going to walk down to the front desk and ask him, like, what's going on. He goes out of his hotel room and he just has this small little flashlight. As he's walking the halls of his hotel, he said he hears this growling sound behind him. He turns around and he said there was that same wolf dog-like creature standing behind him. And this thing started chasing him through the hotel. And he ran as fast as he could, like down to the front desk, out the front door. And when he gets outside the hotel, he was like, wait, like where'd that thing go? Like, where is it at? Like, why didn't he get the guy at the front desk? So he goes back inside and like talks to the guy at the front desk, and he's like, I think someone has like a dog or something in here. And the front desk guy's like, you're crazy. Like, no one can bring pets in here. Like, I've never seen a dog in here. So he goes back to his room, and the next morning, his wife starts saying, you know, like, I'd really want to go see this psychic in town and get like a reading. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. We'll go check her out. So they go to like her house where she has her business, and the sign was on. It said it was open. So they go inside, and out comes this woman, and she says hi to his wife. But when she turns and looks at Chuck, she just freaks out and is like, you guys need to leave. Like, we're closed. You need to get out of here. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, your sign says you're open. Like, what's going on? And she says, just leave right now. Like, get out of my place. And so they thought, well, that's really odd. So he said, you know, they got in their car and they decided, you know what, we're just going to leave. Let's head back home. And they said as they got out of the Smoky Mountains, like, they noticed the energy changed, and that like the weather cleared up, and like, it just felt like something was different. And to this day, Chuck thinks that there was something hiding in the Smoky Mountains that almost got him.
One of the spookiest folk tales of the Native American people that my wife taught me. If you guys didn't know it, my wife is Native American, and this one is just one that she absolutely does not like to talk about. Like many Native American traditions and folk tales, you are not supposed to talk about these things, so I will not be using the name. You guys are probably very familiar, if you live in the Oklahoma area, with Little. I'm not going to say that full word out loud. The LPs, as I like to call them. For people who are white, like myself, we cannot physically see them most of the time. And this gives me chills to even say this out loud, because I've been seeing these for years. And when I found this out for my wife, I realized what I'd been seeing. To white people like us, they look like blue firefly lights. Like, you know how like lightning bugs are like yellow and like an orangish color? The LPs appear as blue lights, or what in Appalachia they call the fae lights, the fairy lights. So if you're seeing blue lights around your property dotting around, that could be the LPs pretty active, and you really shouldn't change a whole lot about that area if they're in. Like if you see it around a thing of trees or something, you should never cut those trees down. Now, these stories vary from tribe to tribe, from people to people, on like how you should interact with them, what you should do around them, how to keep peace with them. Some people believe that you should leave candies out. Some people believe you should leave trinkets. Some believe you should ignore that they're there at all. But essentially, on the mild side, they're tricksters. On the extreme side, they are holy terrors that will abduct your children. So from what I've been told from her and other Native Americans in the area, you really don't have to worry about them too much as far as being a grown adult, besides just your stuff go missing or your tools get misplaced, which I've got ADHD. Maybe I'm misplacing my tools, but my tools go missing all the time. And it could be the neighborhood crackheads. Who knows? But they all pretty much believe that you should not talk about them openly and use their full name. Okay, and I'm not going to say their traditional name. Calling them the LP, the little, is still the whitewashed way of saying it, but that's the best way that I know how to describe them and what they're most commonly known as in this area. And I literally it almost makes me sick to talk about these stories that I've heard from like people I personally know, followers on this page, other Native Americans in this area that have told me their stories with the LPs. And one of the most chilling ones is this woman says that she strongly remembers when she was a child, the children in the woods behind her property would want her to come out and play only when it rained. Now, that's a pretty unique part of the story, because if you know a lot about Native American beliefs, there's a lot of power held in waters, and spirit travels through waters, things like that. So that would make sense of when it was raining is the only time they really saw and interacted with these things. And her mother and grandmother would just never allow her to go outside when it rained, because she would always talk about, I'm excited for when it rains again because I get to see the little girls again that live in the woods behind our house. That story just gives me absolute chills to think about. So what I've heard is that they're very curious, okay? So we, own a wildlife facility, and when we moved out here roughly 5 years ago, we started adding a bunch of new animals. We started building structures to what was just pretty much an empty cow pasture overgrown with berry bushes, which is a nice place for the LPs to live, by the way, if you guys didn't know that. And I would come out here at night, and I would always see these blue, like what I just thought were fireflies. I just thought there was like a variant of fireflies I've never seen before. And I would just never really say anything about it. And one night I talked to my wife about it because we were laying in bed, and I was like, oh, I accidentally let one of those fireflies in because I could see a blue twinkling light going through the room, and it was going into our closet. And my wife absolutely just flipped out. She was like, you saw what? And I was like, yeah, it was a blue light just, kind of around the bed, and it went to the floor, and it went into the closet. And I was like, after she explained that to me, I was like, oh, that explains why I didn't see it floating way up in the air like you would see a firefly. It was close to the ground, because to somebody who could see it, it would have been, one of the LPs, but all I can see is the blue flickering light. And it always creeps me out when I see these lights, because like to this day, if you guys come and visit our facility, look on the roof of the pole barn where the yak is. There's a hatchet up there. I have no idea how my hatchet got onto that roof, but I couldn't find it for weeks, and it's on the roof of that pole barn, and I just left it because that's my trinket to them. You can just have it. Here's one of our Timberwolves, Scotty. She's a good girl, isn't she, Scotty? Good girl. So if you live out in the country and you've experienced these fey lights or fairy lights, or the experiences of the LPs, you might often hear disembodied music that, you can't place where it's coming from, and it's just low. You can barely hear it. You're never supposed to follow the sound of that music. And then also you might hear whispering or talking. Maybe it's in a language you don't quite understand, or it's just like whispering that you can't really make out, or it sounds like gibberish. I've had that experience a few times out here. But if you spend more than 24 hours away with them, you can never come back. And that's why there's a lot of stories about missing children. Now, this could be a folklore about, back in the day, Native Americans not wanting their children to go play out in the woods or play too far away from the group. But it also could explain, if you look into the missing 401 phenomenon, how many children go missing in national parks. It's extremely alarming. And those kids that sometimes do get found, the tales these say, like you can go look up real accounts of the missing 411 kids that have been found. If you don't know what the missing 411 is, it is just this crazy phenomenon where people just disappear without a single trace. Oftentimes they are found at a much later date, and it just does not make sense on how they went missing, where they were found at, where they went missing at, etc. But the stories these kids will talk about, like while they were gone or missing, is they heard music playing, or another person wanted them to come play with them, and a little child, and they might be saying it's a little child when actually it was just a small, an LP. And they wanted them to go play with them, and then they got lost and confused, and the next thing they knew, they were in a world that wasn't quite ours, but it wasn't quite an alien world either. It was like ours, but just different. You hear this described in a lot of different cultures. In fact, almost every culture around the world has a story of an LP, which is kind of odd. You look at Ireland, they have leprechauns. You look at Appalachian, they have the borrowers. Here in the Midwest, in the South, they have the LP. And you talk about, if you go down to Mexico and South America, their LPs are actually incredibly vicious and brutal. The stories of LPs down there are insane. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's videos. If you like different Oklahoma folklore and stuff like that, be sure to give us a follow. We like to have fun with these. Don't take it too serious. People get really heated in the comments going, oh, that's not real, it's superstitious. Like, hey guys, let's keep an open mind, okay? Let's not be ignorant. And I'm a religious man myself, but the people who get me the most heated in these comments are these Bible thumpers that just say, that story can't be real because of the name of Jesus or whatever. Like, I'm religious, okay? I get it. But if you believe the Bible, you also believe a lot of crazy supernatural stories as well. Don't act like it ain't.
You heard about the feral people that live in the woods of the Appalachian Mountains? Legend has it that there are groups of feral humans living deep in the mountains of Appalachia. And apparently they are cannibals? One of the most known possible instances of the wild men is the devastatingly sad story of 6-year-old Dennis Martin. Dennis Martin was just a few days shy of his 7th birthday when he went on a camping trip for Father's Day weekend in the summer of 1969. Dennis, his 9-year-old brother, their father, and their grandfather all went on a multi-day hike from Cades Cove to the Appalachian Trail. After spending the night at the Russell Field shelter, they hiked Saturday to the grassy area of Spence Field, which is on the Tennessee and North Carolina line. And this is a picture of Spence Ridge where they would have set up camp. While here, the Martin family had ran into an unrelated Martin family from Alabama, who also had 2 young boys with them. All the parents sat together while they watched the children play. At around 4:30 p.m., the boys were huddled up planning a prank to sneak around behind the adults and jump out and scare them. The parents could tell what the children were up to, but they just played along. The boys' plan was to split up and jump out of both sides of the woods to scare the parents. Dennis was wearing a bright red shirt that was easy to see, so the older 3 boys sent him in the opposite direction by himself. The older boys jumped out, booed the family, and everyone had fun, but when it was time for Dennis to jump out, he didn't. Now, it had only been a few minutes since his dad had saw Dennis sneaking away, but he didn't waste any time before calling out for his son. His dad walked back and forth several miles in every direction, going down nearby trails, and he never found Dennis. Dennis's grandfather hiked the 6 miles from Spence Field all the way back to Cades Cove to report to rangers. He notified the rangers at 8:30 p.m. on Saturday and then hiked several miles back to Spence Field and looked for Dennis the entire way, never finding anything. As darkness started to fall on Saturday, so did about 2.5 inches of rain. The family and rangers searched as much as they could through the night, and they asked everybody they seen and passed on the trail if they had seen or heard anything about Dennis, and nobody had. Dennis was nowhere to be found. On Sunday, a heavy search for Dennis Martin began at 5 a.m. 400 volunteers helped search for Dennis, covering 60 square miles. To this day, it's still the largest search operation in the Great Smoky Mountains National Forest history. Unfortunately, he was never found. There were heavy rains that washed away any traces that might have been left. They did find 1 set of footprints, though. 1 foot had an Oxford shoe, which is the shoe that Dennis was wearing when he went missing, and the other was barefoot, but the parents were convinced that the footprints were too large to be Dennis's. A month later, a man came forward and said that he had been in Cades Cove and he was trying to photograph a bear, and he claimed he heard a piercing scream which sounded like a child. When he went to see what the sound was, all he saw was an old feral-looking man who darted off into the woods. Where he was standing, he found a piece of paper that had a hand-drawn map on it, which makes many people theorize that Dennis's disappearance was at the hands of this group of wild men, the feral, allegedly cannibalistic people who were rumored to live in the Appalachian Mountains. But this report was a month after his disappearance. Dennis was sadly never found, and it's unlikely that we will ever know what actually happened to him.